Leopold Lambert not only did the pretty little girl pieces, but he also did a series of wonderful paper mache pieces. One of the most popular themes from most of the automaton makers were the gamblers, usually costumed as a gentleman gambler, but sometimes white complexion, sometimes black complexion, sometimes women. A whole variety of options were made available to people. But the theme was fairly constant. The figure would stand behind a velvet-covered table with metallic fringe and embroidered magic themes on the front, with his hands or her hands on two metal cones. And when wound and the lever released, there would be a series, music would play, and a series of different type of prizes would appear underneath. Once years ago, we handled a piece that had a provenance, that it had been in a Texas gambling saloon. It had been one of their center focal pieces for many years. I guess people that were there would place bets on what piece was going to come up underneath, because they don't come in any particular order. It could be a dice with a particular number, it could be a little prize, could be anything. So whether it was made for the Victorian Salon or the Victorian Saloon, obviously appeared in both places. Here's a wonderful, all original piece. Little girl appears, a little doll. Three little balls. Meanwhile, his jaw is going, he's calling out to the people, place your bets, place your bets. His eyes are blinking. And here we have some flower petals. When you hear a thump, that's the underneath part, the mechanism revolving to let the next surprise come up. Oh, both balls went up, and we have a different one under each, and we have a dice on this side, and number 5 is on the dice, so you might have won a prize. Coins. At the beginning of talking to you, I showed you the organ grinder man, and I said his face was uniquely modeled, and to my knowledge, was used for that model, the street organ grinder man, only. This is very, very unique in automatons. Most of the time, if a particular face was modeled, it would then be used on another automaton or would be turned into a doll, as I've showed you several examples of. But this is another example like the street organ grinder man. That this face was sculpted, designed, and made for this model only. And it is the Asian lady serving tea. It's really interesting to me because she's always holding this wooden Erzgebirge, German Erzgebirge wooden tray with a teacup and saucer. So we have a lot of different cultures going on here. But nevertheless, here she is with her fabulous, just stunningly beautiful face and her original costume. And everything about her is perfect. In fact, I'm showing in the back here, she won a blue ribbon in 2009. So she's an award winner as well. And now let's watch her go. Offers the tray and offers it again. Pours, nods her head, and then turns her head as she offers a tray, and very beautiful music plays. She's wearing her entirely original factory costume as well. So very, very rare piece. Beautiful complexion, and please note that her hands are the same matching complexion, so very luxury touches done on this particular piece. It's always been one of my favorites. Gail Cook acquired this automaton from a Theriault auction perhaps some 15 or 20 years ago, and I always remembered it because I thought it was one of the most beautiful ones I have seen. And history has proved that to be correct. It not only is one of the most beautiful, but I have never seen or heard of another example of this. I call it the elegant lady reclining on her recamier. And she's going to make a series of movements that to me were like the height of society at the time. She's elegantly reclining. She has her handkerchief or a fan, and then as though someone comes to the salon door and said the guests have arrived, she rises up to greet them, but she doesn't stand up. She just acknowledges them with a nod on her head and keeps fanning herself and waving her handkerchief while beautiful music plays, and then she reclines back down again as though I've done my duty to society, and now I'm going to rest again and maybe have a chocolate. Here she goes. She's resting, fanning herself. Now her attention is drawn to the guests arriving, and she rises to greet them. And then said, "Enough." Although I focused most of my video programs from the Interlude catalog on the wonderful Gail Cook automatons, I don't want you to overlook the fact that there are 250 exquisite antique dolls in that catalog as well, classic dolls. And I have put here just a slight arrangement of just a very, very few of them that the camera will just scan over. We won't talk about, but there is one in particular I wanted to talk to you about because, again, when I have something that I've never seen before, I think it needs to be drawn to your attention, and you need to be able to look at it and to really know. In the late 1880s, Émile Jumeau introduced a series that he called the Bébés de Quatre Continents. He was doing dolls that were his exotic series that were being introduced. And we have offered some that have had very, very beautiful amber complexions, Asian complexions. We've had ebony black complexions. And in this case, never before have I seen this particular model, totally original from the Jumeau atelier, representing an East Indian girl, even to the point of having the red bindi dot on her forehead, signifying marriage, prosperity, health, and a long life. A beautiful classic Jumeau, original body, perfectly matching the complexion of her face. And what I want you to be able to bask and enjoy is her wonderful costume, which, by the way, there's a blue ribbon attached to the back. I'll take that off and we'll put that back on later. She won a blue ribbon in 2007 at the UFDC Doll Club annual convention. But let's look at her extraordinary and quite authentic costume with its wonderful embroidery, with its embedded emeralds, in quotes, obviously not real emeralds, but faux emeralds, the metallic tinsel edging, the wonderful mauve silk of the skirt. I'm going to tip her down so you can see, well, I think I'll turn her around first so you can see the back of her coif. And then I will tip her backwards so you can see the top of her coif, which again is embedded with the, quote, rubies and emeralds. Very, very beautiful, gleaming complexion. She has, and again, I have not had time to look up all of the symbolism, but we have the mauve embroidery on her wrap, which is matching the mauve color of her skirt. She has this beautiful apron with grand embroidery on it and wonderful earrings and jewelry. And let me turn it all the way around so you can see how beautifully this is draped. All across her, she has the necklace, which is matching the earrings. She has bracelets. Never seen this doll before, extremely rare. Perhaps one of the rarest dolls we've offered in the past 2 years. Very, very wonderful classic doll. So as a conclusion to the Interlude catalog video, and as a prelude to talking to you about the costumes in the upcoming costume catalog, which I'm going to talk to you about next, I wanted to show you one doll that had come to us from the Beulah Franklin collection of Boston. I was unpacking the collection and I discovered this doll, and then next to it I discovered this trunk, and then I discovered another trunk, and then I discovered dozens of pieces of wonderful undergarments and costumes and more pieces. And what I loved, of course I love the costumes and I love the whole thing, but I love the story, because on the side of the trunk is stamped Mademoiselle Frou-Frou, Boston. Frou-Frou being the French word for lavish little ribbons on bonnets, but this is Mademoiselle Frou-Frou from Boston. And inside was an old receipt that Beulah Franklin had bought this from an antique shop in Boston back in 1975. So for the past, I can't do the math, 35, 37 years, this doll has lived in her home, and for the 100 and some years prior to that had lived in another place in Boston, brought to her from Paris by a wonderful traveler who brought a doll home to his child and had a trunk made for it with a canvas cover, Mademoiselle Frou-Frou. Here's the best part. Every piece of undergarment is ink lettered Mademoiselle Frou-Frou, 1871. Absolute treasure, and a really nice fitting conclusion to this video, because it brings us with Mademoiselle Frou-Frou and her wonderful trousseau into talk about the doll costume auction, which follows the next day of many fine spun threads. We'll be right with you on that.